You're listening to Coffee Break Flight Instruction by M0A.com. Flight training tips in 15 minutes or less. Hey everyone, Jason Schappert here of M0A.com alongside world famous Uncle Larry Diamond. You're listening to Coffee Break Flight Instruction, flight training tips in 15 minutes or less. Let's start the clock. And Larry, this is something that came up just last night. We were talking about, somebody asked me, what was my opinion of, you see advertised those, IFR ticket in 10 days sort of things you see in AOPA magazine and everything else. I kind of wanted to share my opinion on it and of course get your opinion as well. Here's my opinion on it, and again, this is strictly my opinion. If you disagree with it, feel free, you're allowed to, and feel free to shoot me an email if you want to talk more about it. I think it's genius marketing. From that standpoint, 10 days become an IFR pilot. I think it's great marketing. I am personally not a fan. I'll tell you why I'm not a fan. Because what I found in these 10-day get your IFR ticket courses is, of course, it's flying, all day, every day, doing your groundwork in between. But I'm finding that those students don't get a lot of real-world experience. By that I mean they may go their entire IFR ticket, yet never actually stick their head in a cloud. They may do it all just under the hood or on the foggles, when anybody who's done any actual instrument flying knows that it's a different ball game between real actual time and what happens under the foggles. Two different things. I think the premise as well, though, is you do your 10-day IFR course, and anybody who's going to do a 10-day IFR course might be more of a career track type person. So maybe they're going to keep them in that environment. It's not like they're going out and renting airplanes. It's not like they're going to go out and go blazing in IFR conditions, although they'll have the ticket, and they legally could. I personally believe, now this isn't a Part 61 141 debate. I'm just saying I'm not a big fan of these 10 days, zero to hero type courses. I'm not saying you spread out over 6 months. I'm just saying you kind of need to get out there on a grassroots, down and dirty kind of effort and shoot some different approaches. Do something different. Larry, I know you do approaches with your private pilot guys a few times, Larry, just to show them what that's like. In these 10-day programs, they have very prescribed, we're going to shoot this approach, and everything else. But whereas if you came to Larry and I to do your instrument, we could really custom tailor that course, to you. And that's kind of my opinion on it. I think it's a quality issue. Now listen, there is a place for it because people do it. I think there's a place for it for people who need to be immersed in it to learn it. I could give the same opinion of like the weekend written test prep stuff. I'm personally not a big fan of the, hey, let's all go down to Tampa Friday, Saturday, Sunday, cram for the written test, the Sunday take your written test. I'm personally not a big fan of those either. However, I know for a fact there are students that would not give their written test any other way because they can't commit the time to study for the written test. They won't learn any other way unless they turn off the cell phone, schedule it in advance and say, this is my week to do my written test, or this is my 2 weeks to finish my instrument. There is a place for that kind of individual. It's not for me, is what I'm really saying. But there is certainly a place for it for the time-sensitive individual like that. But please understand one thing, and Larry will chime in better on this probably. Just because you have your instrument rating, in either case, whether you drug out over 3, 4, 5 months or you did it in 10 days, doesn't mean you should be going blazing approaches down to minimums. I think we can both agree on that. So, Larry, what's your thought on the whole 10-day to hero instrument program kind of thing?
Well, the first thing is I had, you know me, I work a lot with healthcare professionals, and so I've had like an anesthesiologist that's asked me that I've trained IFR, and unfortunately she went out to Akron, Ohio, so we didn't finish her instrument training. But just with her schedule alone, we were flying maybe once every 2 weeks, or we're getting into icing conditions. It all depends on the season. It's hard to take somebody actually into the clouds when they just barely know what a VOR approach is, based on RNAV is, and they're really not you got to stay consistent with the airplane. So it's all really about flying the airplane and flying it stable and to be doing it almost as if you're breathing and becoming part of the airplane. So for those kind of people, I said, if you can't take any other time to do it, then that's probably the only way you're going to do it. And then here's the big but. The big but is then you really have to come back and you will not fly with anybody until you've gotten what we call, we got the building blocks we're going to build on top of it. I'm going to put you into actual. We're going to gradually build up to that. We're going to go from 3 miles visibility and maybe ceiling to 3,000 where we're breaking out maybe 1,000 feet actually higher than what we would normally do at minimums, and we're going to gradually work there up because I don't want you to take your family up, get into a situation and you have no experience. And I've flown with the people, especially some CFIIs that I tried to get my instrument currency back with, and they have never ever been in a cloud.
Yeah.
And how could that? How could you ever have a CFII? And I'll say, okay, well, let's go and we're going to kind of shoot. We got ceilings at 2,500. Let's go and shoot some approaches in different airports. Let's do an NDB. Oh, wait a second. NDB? I can't shoot an NDB. I've never shot an NDB. I went down to, Fort Lauderdale. They don't have NDBs down there. Well, in Michigan, I got like 5 of them within a 50-mile thing. I said, well, no, I want to shoot that. And I said, there's a lot of times when I've even had multi-engine pilots who went down there, got their multi-engine with there, but don't know how to really do an engine out if it really would happen. So the 10-day courses give you just enough. It's almost just enough to make you dangerous. It's like my pharmacy students when they get their license. I said, that's just really a license to learn, just like a private pilot, just like an instrument pilot. So it's okay as long as you do the proper steps in order to stay current, be current, and be proficient at it. So if you're going on and you're going to go and you're going to fly for the airlines and you need to get that ticket, you're just kind of building time, you need to understand that you're just going to get the bare bones minimum. And when my students, even my private pilot students, they have way more than 40 hours when they do it. Why? Because they get exposed to things that you just can't put into a syllabus and do over 10 days. And that's really what it's about. It's about getting experience. And I have more actual than I actually do simulated. And so, they're going to get vertigo no matter what's going to happen. They're not going to be able to handle the plane. They get into maybe an airplane that's got a retractable landing gear, it's going a little faster. They get into like a low-level wind shear, which I have multiple times. All of a sudden, your speed goes to 0, and they're shooting an approach. Whoops, it wasn't on that 10-day course that I took when I went down to Colorado or Denver. Yeah. So that's my feeling. It's okay for some people, but they got to understand it's probably not enough to keep them and their family safe.
No, I totally get it. I don't believe there's any way you could get enough experience from knowing nothing in 10 days to blazing approaches down to minimums or really just sticking your head in the clouds, for goodness sakes. It is a license to learn. Every license is a license to learn. We know that. So there is a time and a place for it, but it's not my cup of tea. Maybe it suits you if you're listening, but it's not something I'm totally a big fan of, unfortunately. So that is that. So again, if you guys have any questions or want to, leave your opinion as well, just shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to talk more about it. So guys, thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Coffee Break Flight Instruction. Flight training tips in 15 minutes or less. Be sure to subscribe to us in iTunes. So on behalf of myself, world-famous Uncle Larry Diamond, the entire M0A.com team, guys, enjoy the rest of your day, and most importantly, remember that a good pilot is always learning. Have a great day, guys. See ya.